So today we're going to be drawing this object, interesting little doodad, using AutoCAD. Okay, but before we begin, I think I should point out a few requirements that we're going to end up covering. One, we have this rectangle out here that's red, so we'll need to find a way to make this rectangle red instead of the default white and black. Also, these lines here will need to be blue for the object. And you notice these center lines here, they're green. Well, they also have a center line type, which we'll need to create. So the different commands we'll be using. For one, we're going to be making a few layers. It'll be very simple. I hope I don't lose anybody. If I do, you can always restart the video or back up the video, however you prefer. And then what we're going to be using, we're going to need some object snaps because I see this line here is tangent to these two circles, which getting something exactly tangent is pretty difficult without object snaps. We have some arcs here. Yes, we will be using the arc command. We have circles with the circle command. And we have a regular hexagon here, which we're going to be using the Polygon command for that. We'll be using these dimensions as best as I've provided them. And, well, we'll see how it goes from here. So, here in AutoCAD, I need a rectangle. Well, first I need those layers, right? Okay, so we had 3 layers. We had the rectangle. So I'm going to click this button here real quick before I go into that, which will pull up my layers manager. Okay, once it loads. And here I'm going to create some layers. If it loads. Okay, here we go. Took it a while. And so to create a layer, either use the hotkey Alt-N or just click this new layer button. Okay. Since I'm not going to be seeing exactly the names of your layers, you can name them how you want. I'm going to name this one Rectangle. Okay. And then I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it Object. And then I'm going to make a third layer called Center Lines. Alrighty then. So now I've got my 3 layers. What do each of them need? Well, the rectangle and the object layers just need to be different colors, right? So rather than white, if you click on the color, the little box will bring up the select color. I'm going to use red for my rectangle and blue for the object. Now the center lines, I want them to be green. This is the only thing I'm going to be doing. The center lines had that funny little line type, didn't they? So that's going to be under line type, this column here. So the default is continuous. You may have some preloaded, but if you don't have the center line, which is the one I'm looking for, I need to load center line type. So clicking load brings up this load or reload line types dialog box. I'm going to search for something that looks like the center lines. Okay, so we have center, center 2, and center times 2. Okay, so I'm just going to do center here. Click on the name and hit OK. But don't hit OK a second time because it's not going to change anything. You need to click the line type that you just loaded and then select it by hitting OK. Now we have our green center lines. Then we can close out of this manager for now. So, looking back at my drawing, okay, I've got the red rectangle is 11 by 17. So I'm going to come into here in AutoCAD, make a rectangle. Well, there's a few ways I can do it. I could use just the basic line command if I wanted to, but I'm going to do something simpler. There's this rectangle command, okay, where you click on it, and I'm going to start a rectangle. So I'm going to start somewhere near the origin. It doesn't have to be exact. Oh wait, why isn't my rectangle red? That's because I am drawing on the wrong layer. So to change the layer that I am currently drawing on is right here. This layer drop-down menu. Okay, if I click on it, it shows me all 4 of the different layers. 0 is your default layer. It's always there. But these other 3 are the ones we created. So I need to select my rectangle layer before I start drawing my rectangle so that it's actually red. So clicking the rectangle button again, coming down here, somewhere near the origin, okay, and clicking and dragging, right? Okay, so I'm going to specify how big I want my rectangle. Well, if I just typed in some numbers here, 11 by 17, it's not going to give me the exact dimensions I wanted. Now, for those of you looking down near my command line, we'll notice that there are 3 little options: area, dimensions, and rotation. So if I click on dimensions here, it'll actually give me the length for the rectangle, or an option for it. So it was 11 by 17. So I'm going to type in 11. Oh, 11 was our height, wouldn't it? Maybe it would be best, since this is asking for length, to type in 17. Okay, now it's asking for width. Okay, well, length and width, that would be 11, right? So I have a rectangle now that is 11 by 17. Okay, so there we go. I left click, and it selects my rectangle, or creates it, rather. Alrighty then, so I have my rectangle. I don't need to do anything else in the rectangle because the rectangle, I've made it as it's necessary, and it's the only thing that's red. Everything else is green or blue. So I'm going to come back here and change my layers. I'm going to change it to center lines. That's what I'm going to draw next. So here, I'm going to look at this center line here. Now these center lines, I've given them arbitrary lengths because since if you're actually going to be building this object, you don't need to know the exact length of the center lines, only the distance of the objects upon them apart from one another. So I'm going to draw this first center line that's horizontal, which is 7.5 inches from the bottom of the rectangle. So I'm going to do a line. Okay, I need to specify that I am going to be 7.5 inches from the bottom, so I'm going to use my object snap tracking. Okay, make sure that's on first. So I'm going to hover over the bottom left endpoint of my rectangle and move up from it. Okay, you should see a very small dashed line on your screen. Okay, and I'm going to type in 7.5. Okay, now it started up drawing my line. I'm going to come out an arbitrary length and finish it. Then we have the line. And it's got the large and small dashes that we need. Now this isn't as long as I really need it, so I'm just going to pull it back just some to keep it from touching the sides of the rectangle. Okay, so next I'm going to do these 2 vertical lines here. So we have a 6.5 inch offset from this rectangle to the center line, and a 4-inch offset from the center line to the next center line. Okay, so what I'm going to do, pull back into AutoCAD, do something very similar. I'm going to start here at this endpoint, come across 6.5, okay, with object snap tracking, and then come straight down some arbitrary distance, okay? And now the 2 lines intersect. And I'm going to also stretch this down just a little bit by clicking on it, grabbing the grip, and pulling it down. Okay, so then from this line, I need to go over 4 inches, right? Yeah. Okay, since I have here, both center lines are about the same size, and they don't need to be any longer or shorter than each other, So I'm going to use the copy command. It's a nice little modification tool. Here, copy. So I'm going to click on it, select the line that I want to copy, and enter. Then I'm going to specify a base point. Since I'm just going to be making one copy and moving it to the right, the location of that base point is actually arbitrary. It doesn't actually need to be anywhere. I'm going to click just somewhere in the screen and drag it to the right 4 units. There we go. Now I'm still in my copy command, so I have to cancel the command before I can do anything else. So I'm going to hit escape. There we go. I've got my horizontal center line and 2 vertical center lines. Okay. So if we look at these last 3 center lines down here, it's kind of difficult to know exactly where they are. So instead of that, instead of me drawing these first before I draw the object, I'm going to start drawing some of these objects here, some of the object points in here. Kind of thinking about it, I might need to figure out exactly where those are, which we'll get to that bridge when we'll cross the bridge when we come to it. Anyways, so if I'm going to be drawing the object, okay, I'm going to be drawing some of it here, but I need to be on my object layer, right? So, because I want it to be blue. So, looking back at it, okay, why don't I start with this side right here? This little half-inch radius circle. Okay, so I'm going to use the circle command. I have that right over here. There are many different ways to draw a circle, which you can look at each of these if you click the drop down. Several ways, but for now, I'm just going to use the center radius. Okay, creation method. So it's a half-inch radius. So I'm going to click here in the middle of the center line that it needs to be at. Drag it out some. It doesn't matter what angle I drag it out in, because of course it's a circle. I'm going to specify its radius as 0.5. Okay, there we go. Here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okie dokie. So now, if I come back here, we've got another circle just outside of it. Well, technically it's an arc, but I'm going to just draw it as a circle so I get the whole thing in there. I see a couple of lines here that are tangent to it. So it's actually going to be easier for me to draw the circle and then do the lines tangent to the circle rather than drawing this one as an arc. You may notice also that here in a bit that I actually prefer to use circles over arcs in a lot of cases. But there are several cases where I will use an arc. But for now, I'm just going to use another circle with the same center point as last time. That one had a radius of, what, 1? So type in 1, hit enter. I have 2 concentric circles now. Then I'm going to look over here, and we have this regular hexagon with a side. Each side is 0.875 units, okay? And it's off the horizontal by 8 degrees. So let's see about that. If I'm going to draw a polygon, the drop down is right next to the rectangle, and you can use the polygon command. Or you can just type it into your command line for those of you who like that. Okay. So, what's the number of sides I'm going to be using? Well, it's a hexagon, so I'm going to be doing 6 sides. Okay. Well, I can specify the center of the polygon. It's going to be here. Okay. Now, inscribed or circumscribed? Oops. Okay. The method that I have here doesn't give you the radius or diameter of any circle, does it? So we might have to do just a little bit of math. Don't worry, it's not going to kill anybody. Okay. Since I can't show you my scratch paper that I would be working with normally, I'm going to instead use AutoCAD in order to show you this. So I'm going to create a new file, the blank file. Yes, I know that I'm using an AutoCAD Autodesk program. So using a polygon, I'm just going to draw a quick little hexagon here at a random shape. Okay. So first thing I'm going to need to do in order to find the um, the angles that I'm going to have to be working with in order to get this correct, okay, let's turn that on. I'm going to need to figure out how to turn one side into a triangle that I can use. Okay, so the full angle in a circle, okay, that's 360 degrees, right? Okay, correct. So we are dealing with 1/6 of it, which would be this much. Okay, that would give us a 60 degrees, right? Okay, so now if we cut that in half, we're dealing with 30 degrees. Okay, so then we can use that to know this is suddenly a right triangle here that I've drawn, 30, 60, 90. So for a hexagon, okay, the way we're going to find this, okay, one of the special traits of the 30, 60, 90 right triangle is that the smallest leg is half of the size of the hypotenuse. Okay, so if here I give you the entire length of the side for this regular hexagon, okay, that means that this distance here, this largest distance, is going to be the exact same size as the radius that we're dealing with. So not bad. Okay, but one thing also to go over, just in case, is the difference between circumscribed and inscribed. Okay, it's one of the options that popped up, right? So I here see inscribed or circumscribed. The difference between inscribed and circumscribed is largely the intersections, okay, of the circle. If it is inscribed, okay, this is an inscribed hexagon. Okay, it is inside the circle. That's what inscribed means. However, if it is circumscribed, okay, that means it is outside of the circle. Alrighty then. So since we know the radius of the polygon, that means that it's going to correspond with the radius of the circle if the polygon is inscribed in the circle. So that's what we need. Okay, I'm going to close out of this now since I figured out the distance. So the hexagon we will be using, okay, going to be 6 sides, obviously. Specified center right there. It will be inscribed in the circle, okay? And I'm going to pull it out, some arbitrary angle or whatever. And I'm going to say that it is, well, what was it? No, I forgot. Oh yeah, 0.875. You might notice that I don't practice these much. Okay, so 0.875. So we have 6 sides. There's the center. It's inscribed. Going to come out. Okay, I'm going to draw it horizontally. And the radius of the circle is going to be 0.875. There we go. That's the size we need for the polygon to be. But looking at this, we're still not finished with the polygon, are we? Because it's slightly off angle. It's rotated from horizontal by 8 degrees. Okay, so here we have it at 8 degrees, or right now it's at horizontal. So we need to rotate it. We can use the rotate command. Okay, whenever you specify a base point, you want the base point to be at the center of the polygon. Okay, now the angle, we are wanting this to be rotated by 8 degrees. So I'm just going to type in 8 for the rotation of the angle. Okay, there we go. Now it's slightly kinked off of the horizontal by 8 degrees, just like we needed. Okie dokie. So let's see, we have this larger circle here. Well, radius, or arc rather. Duh. One of these days I'll get it right. And we have this one as well. So we have two circles. The smaller of the two is radius 1.5. The larger of the two is radius of 2.0. So I'm going to use the circle command again at the same center point, radius of 1.5. Okay, not bad. Then I need another radius, right? Radius to be 2.0. Okay. There we go. That's the other arc that's out here, or at least it's going to be. So then what else do we have? Okay. So please forgive that annoying little pop-up. My computer's going a little slow. Here, maybe if I can zoom it around. Then. Okay, so we've got this arc here that is at a radius of 6. That's pretty big. Why don't we try creating that? Okay, but first, where's the center point? Anybody else notice it? Well, its center point is actually right here, in amongst the other two smaller circles. So that's where I'm going to draw it. Okay, 6 units. That's going to be pretty big right here. Okay, notice it intersects with this circle right there. Rather nice, isn't it? Okay, then next we can have a line right here that goes between these two circles, can't we? Okay, that line is tangent to both. It doesn't start at the quadrants, or at the top parts of the circle. It doesn't start there. It has to be at the tangents. So I'm going to shift right-click to pull up this Object Snap drop menu. I'm going to click Tangent. Okay, this gives me the ability to draw. My next point will be tangent to the object I select. So I'm going to select this object. Okay, notice now the point is not very definite. It's actually kind of wild, isn't it? So next I want it tangent to this object. So I'm going to shift right-click again and say Tangent and click there. Okay, you should notice that this line is not at the top of either of the two circles, which means you did it right. Okay, so now one thing we can do is we can get rid of a little bit of this circle, right? So we have boundary points at this end and this end. Anytime you get to a part in your drawing where you can clean it up a little bit, do so. Because otherwise you've got clutter, and clutter gets really annoying. So one way to remove clutter is to use the trim command. Okay, this would have worked rather nicely in the last assignment that I gave you, but I didn't want to cover it just then. Okay, so clicking the trim command says select cutting edges. Okay, if you read that at the top of my command line, and then select objects or select all. Okay, so for my cutting edges, I'm going to be cutting this center object, or this circular object, so I want to select the outermost circle and the line that is tangent to be my cutting edges. So you can either right-click or enter to confirm that. Now it says select object to trim or shift select to extend. Okay, so I'm going to select the object to trim, which is the circle. And whenever you're going to trim the circle, whatever part of the circle you click on is what is removed. So I want to keep this outer section, right, in the top left section, and I want to get rid of everything else. So I click on that everything else, and it's gone. Okay, you can right-click or press Enter to end the command. Okay, and there we go. I cleaned up some clutter. Alrighty then. So we've got the issue of the bottom half of the object, right? Okay. So this one here, we've got two center lines that are at 45 degrees. Okay. And we've got this radius here, unspecified tangent lines here and here. Okay. So since it's not actually listed here, we might have to find the exact position of these two center lines by a little bit of trial and error or guesswork. So let's try that. Let's see if it works. Okay, so we got a center line. So I need to be on my center lines layer and in the line command. And I'm going to draw a center line. Okay, it's at 45 degrees and at an unspecified angle, or distance rather. The angle is precise. And then it's got what? It's got a twin, doesn't it? Up a little bit more at the same, or at 2 inches at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to use, well, last time I used the copy command. I think this time I'm going to use offset. Works kind of similarly, but not exactly. So offset is right here. Okay, so I'm going to click on that, and it says specified distance. Okay, so I want to specify 2 inches that I will be moving. Okay, select object to offset. Okay, so I want to offset this object, and then specify the side that I want to offset it on. I want to offset it on this side here. Okay, and press Enter to exit the command. So, looking at this, so I suppose it's close. Okay. And then I need another line going straight between them, don't I? So, also at 45 degrees. Alrighty then. Now I'll need to draw some of these circles and arcs. So, oops, clicked on circles, but I'm in the wrong layer. Okay, I'm going to hit escape to cancel that and get back on my object layer. Then go to the circle command. Okay, clicking on the intersection there. I need what? What was that radius? Well, I have this, I'm trying to draw this circle here, or arc here, and it's got a 1 inch, what is that, diameter. Okay, so there's a couple ways I can do that. You know, in fact, why don't I use the arc command instead of the circle command? That way I don't actually have to trim anything. So, the arcs, okay, I know exactly what the center is going to be, and I can be specific on the start and end, can't I? Okay, so I need start, end, and center, don't I? Start, center, and end. Okay, whenever you find these here, the exact order that the name is given in is how you're going to draw it. So I want the one where I start with the center and then designate the starting point and the end point. So I will start with the center and specify the beginning and the end. So if its diameter is 1, then its radius is half, right? So 0.5, that gives me that first point. And then this last point, okay, I'm going to also put 0.5 in this direction. Huh, well, that didn't work. So I just hit undo to undo that. I'm going to try and figure out why that messed up. So start point, 0.5 in this direction. Oh, I think I figured it out. Okay, because it's allowing me to type in degrees. I typed in a length. I said I wanted it to be 5 inches in this direction. Okay, so instead of doing that, I'm just going to click, since I'm on this polar snap, okay, right there. And now it's got the distance that I wanted. Okay, so let's try that again on the other side. Okay, right here, center, start. Start's going to be at 2 units at 45 degrees. Oops, not 2 units. Oh, that was silly of me. Half a unit, correction. Blah. Okay, and oops, we've got an issue here. It's going the wrong way, isn't it? Okay, so instead of doing it that way, what if I drew it in the other order? Rather than the top right being the first point and the bottom left being the second point, what if I did center and bottom left, 0.5, then came around? There we go, that's better. Whenever you're drawing an arc from start to end, it'll always create the arc in a counterclockwise direction. Okay, remember that. So, and I'm going to click to finish it up. Okay, doesn't look too bad. Then I'm going to use the line command to finish it off. Endpoint to endpoint. Press enter to temporarily disable the line command. You can, in order to repeat your last command, you can right click and you see repeat line, or you can see recent input as well. These are handy little things if you do a lot of right clicking. I'm going to left click right there and right there. And enter or escape to exit the line command. Alrighty, let's look how that, see how that looks here. Okay. Well, we do actually have something that can define the position of these center lines, don't we? This 1-inch radius arc has to be tangent with this 6-inch radius arc. Okay, so let's see if this actually works. If having this here at 1 inch, well, phooey. Guess that means we got it the wrong distance, didn't we? Okay. So, since I did not specify correctly the distance there, I'm going to select all of those objects, and I'm going to move them. Okay, lovely little move command right up here. Alrighty. So I want one object to be tangent to the next. Okay, and it's going to be moving in a 45-degree direction. So I guess I could try to get it as close as possible. Okay, that's one way to do it. However, they're not exactly on top of one another, are they? Which can present a problem if I try to trim. Okay, so try to figure another way to do it. Okay, I'm going to undo back until now, just before I selected everything. Select it all again. I'm going to move it. This time I'm going to pick a point, tangent point on this one, if I can. Well, no, it's not going to allow me to do that. Not really, anyways. So, maybe I can reselect everything and move. Yeah, instead I'm going to use the nearest snap instead, but I can get as close to it as I want. Okay, there. I'm going to move it at a 45-degree angle till it intersects. Okay, that's pretty close. It intersects it, and I'm not going to actually be taking a fine-tooth comb to this, so as long as I can still use the trim command, I'm good with it. Okay, so, yeah, unfortunately, I apparently missed a dimension on the actual drawing itself for the assignment. So, now, let's try to get rid of some of this clutter here. The last time we used the trim command, so why don't we do that again? Trim command. Okay, notice this one though, something that I didn't mention earlier, is that select all option. You can press enter, and any option that you see that's in those greater than or less than symbols means that that is the default command. If you hit enter right after you select the tool, that's what it's going to do. So why don't we do that? Let's hit enter. Okay, so the objects we want to trim. Okay, by hitting enter, that means every object in the scene or in the drawing is going to be a cutting edge. So, like that cut it. Okay, but it cut it from this circle to the rectangle. If I want to get rid of the rest, I got to click here as well. Okay, which did from the rectangle side to the rectangle side. Then here as well. That does from the rectangle side to the circle, or the radius there. Okay, so that's good. Now I'm going to hit enter in that command. Now we've got the little chunk that's around here, right? Which is, unfortunately, also a little unspecified. Okay, we know that it's a 1.25 radius circle inside there. We can tell also somewhere that the center has to be inside the center line. Okay, so that'll give us another place to start. So circle, I'm just going to try to draw it arbitrarily at first. 1.5, or wait, was it a 1.5? No, correction, 1.25. I'm going to undo that. Circle 1.25 radius. Okay, so it's not quite where it needs to be because the radius needs to be inside of this line. So I'm going to select it, click move, drag it out a little bit. Okay, so maybe something like that. Okay, I'm going to need lines tangent to it from this circle to this circle, and from this circle to that circle. Okay, so just like we created that first line that was tangent to both, select the line command, shift right click, and then select tangent. Oops, I have passed it. There we go. Select the first circle's corner or edge here, shift right click, and then tangent again, get that circle. Press enter to end the line command, and click on it once more. Shift right click to get this again, tangent, this circle, shift right click, tangent of the other circle. Enter one last time. Okay, now I've got some things to trim. One, I want to get rid of the inside of this circle, the outside of this circle, and the inside of that circle. Okay, so since it's kind of complicated in here, rather than selecting all for my trim edges, and I'm going to select the trim command, I'm just going to grab the lines that are tangent and the circle, the 6-inch radius circle. Okay, press enter to accept them, and then start trimming away. So inside of that circle, outside of that one, inside of that one. Enter to end the trim command. And there we go. It is actually completed. What do you know? Exactly what I had. Alrighty then.